The courtroom froze. People didn't whisper. They didn't breathe. Because what she said wasn't a threat. It was a demand. Your Honor, this child should be sentenced to the electric chair. My daughter's fingers tightened around mine. She was 12 years old. Disabled. Terrified. And the woman standing confidently at the podium had no idea that the man sitting silently beside that child was the federal judge who would decide whether her life would ever be touched by injustice again. Our neighborhood looked perfect from the outside. Clean sidewalks. Trimmed lawns. Smiling neighbors. And an HOA that ruled everything. They controlled paint colors, parking spots, even how long trash bins could stay outside. But more than rules. They controlled fear. Especially through one woman. Everyone called her Karen, not to her face, of course. She was the HOA president. Power-hungry. Obsessed with punishment. Rules weren't guidelines to her. They were weapons. My daughter, Emily, was born with a neurological disability. She struggled with sensory overload. Sudden noise scared her. Stress made her shut down. But she was gentle. Creative. Innocent in a way the world often punishes. She loved drawing. Not on walls. Not on property. Just chalk, because chalk washed away. Or so we thought. One quiet afternoon, Emily drew a rainbow on the sidewalk. A small one. Near our building. She smiled proudly. Karen saw it from across the street. Her face changed instantly. Karen marched toward Emily, phone already recording. Who did this? She demanded. Emily raised her hand slowly. I'm sorry, she said. I can erase it. Karen laughed. Sorry doesn't undo crimes. Crimes. Over chalk. Emily froze. Her breathing became uneven. Karen didn't stop. This is vandalism, she announced loudly. People like you destroy communities. People like you. That evening, an HOA violation notice appeared on our door. Charge, property defacement, recommended action, legal escalation. I requested a meeting. Karen denied it. Instead, she filed a formal complaint not just with the HOA, but with the court. I could have ended everything with one phone call. But I didn't. Because I wanted to see how far cruelty would go when it believed no one powerful was watching. Emily wore her favorite sweater. She thought we were just talking to a judge. She didn't understand why Karen smiled so confidently. Or why so many papers were stacked in front of her. I sat beside my daughter. Silent. Observant. Waiting. Karen stood and addressed the court. She spoke clearly. Calmly. This child has a pattern of disruptive behavior, she said. She refuses to follow rules. She is unstable. Emily's head dropped. Then Karen went further. Extreme behavior deserves extreme consequences. The judge blinked. Are you suggesting detention? He asked. Karen shook her head. No, Your Honor. I believe she deserves the harshest sentence available. A pause. Then. The electric chair. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, she's a child. Emily began to cry. I held her close. Karen stood tall, proud. Because justice isn't always loud. Sometimes, it waits. And sometimes, it lets evil expose itself completely. The judge leaned back slowly. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam the gavel. That calm scared people more than anger ever could. Ms. Reynolds, he said, addressing Karen, do you understand what you're asking for? Karen nodded confidently. I'm asking the court to make an example, she replied. If we allow disorder, society collapses. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Emily squeezed my arm tighter. "Daddy, am I bad?" she whispered. I swallowed hard. "No," I said softly. "You're not." The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Your Honor," he said carefully, "this is a civil HOA dispute involving sidewalk chalk. There is no criminal charge, let alone capital punishment." Karen interrupted him. "She has a documented history of emotional instability," Karen snapped. "She's a threat." The word threat hung in the air. I saw heads turn. The judge leaned forward. "Ms. Reynolds," he asked, "what qualifications do you have to diagnose a child?" Karen hesitated for the first time. "I don't need qualifications," she said. "I have common sense." The judge made a note. That single sentence did more damage than she realized. The prosecutor requested permission to present video evidence submitted by the HOA. Karen smiled. She believed the footage would support her. The screen flickered on. The video showed Karen approaching Emily. Her voice sharp. Her tone aggressive. "You people never learn," Karen could be heard saying. The courtroom grew still. Emily covered her ears. The judge raised his hand. "Pause," he said. He looked directly at Karen. "Who did you mean by you people?" Karen's face flushed. "I meant rule breakers," she said quickly. The judge didn't respond. He simply wrote again. I stood. "Your Honor," I said calmly, "may I speak on my daughter's behalf?" Karen rolled her eyes. The judge nodded. "You may." I turned slightly so Emily could still hold my hand. "My daughter has a neurological disability," I said. "She experiences stress differently." Authority figures shouting at her causes panic. I looked at Karen. She wasn't vandalizing. She was drawing. Karen scoffed. "That's not my responsibility," she said. "Disability doesn't excuse bad behavior." The courtroom erupted. "Order," the judge called. Then he looked at Karen with a sharpness that made her stiffen. "Disability doesn't excuse cruelty either," he said. The judge asked, "Ms. Reynolds, were you aware this child has a disability?" Karen shrugged. "Rules apply equally." That was it. Not remorse. Not hesitation. Just arrogance. The gavel struck. Court will recess for 15 minutes. As people stood, whispers filled the room. Karen walked past me and laughed quietly. "You think you're winning," she whispered. "I've ruined families before." I looked at her calmly. "You won't ruin mine." She smirked and walked away. When court resumed, the atmosphere was different. The judge's posture had changed. So had his tone. This was no longer about chalk. This was about abuse of authority. The judge looked at Karen. "Ms. Reynolds," he said, "do you understand the legal definition of discrimination against a disabled minor?" Karen shifted in her seat. "I was enforcing HOA rules." The judge replied firmly. "You were escalating punishment beyond your authority, without jurisdiction, and with reckless disregard for a child's rights." Karen's smile vanished. Karen glanced at me again. Longer this time. Her eyes narrowed. "Why does he look so familiar?" she muttered. I said nothing. I didn't need to. The judge looked down at the file one last time. Then he looked at me. Not as a father, but with recognition. "Mr. Carter," he said slowly, "would you please stand?" Karen's head snapped toward me. Her face tightened. I stood up, calm, composed. Emily held my hand. The judge continued. "For the record," he said, "Mr. Carter is not only the father of the child in question." He paused. "He is also a federal judge of this court." The courtroom erupted. Gasps. Whispers. A chair scraped loudly against the floor. Karen's face drained of color. "What?" she whispered. She looked at me again, this time with fear. You can't. The judge raised his hand. Sit down, Ms. Reynolds. She obeyed instantly. The judge turned to the courtroom. I allowed this hearing to proceed without disclosure, he said, because I wanted to observe how authority is exercised when it believes no accountability exists. He looked directly at Karen. And what I observed was disturbing. The judge continued, his voice steady and sharp. You demanded the execution of a disabled minor over a civil HOA complaint. Karen tried to speak. No. You labeled a child as dangerous without medical authority. You escalated punishment without jurisdiction. And you displayed discriminatory intent. Karen's hands shook. The judge raised the gavel. This court dismisses all complaints against the child immediately. Emily exhaled shakily. Then he turned to Karen. And this court refers Ms. Reynolds for investigation on charges of harassment, discrimination, and abuse of authority. The gavel struck. It was over. No, please, Karen said, standing suddenly. I was just enforcing rules. The judge looked at her coldly. Rules without humanity are tyranny. Bailiffs stepped forward. Karen sat back down, defeated. Emily looked up at me. Daddy, am I free? I smiled for the first time that day. Yes, I said. You always were. She hugged me tightly. News spread fast. The HOA board dissolved within weeks. Policies were rewritten. Mandatory disability awareness training was enforced. Karen resigned quietly. No speeches. No apologies. Just silence. That evening, Emily asked if we could walk. We did. Past the same sidewalk. She drew another rainbow. No one stopped her. This story was never about power. It was about restraint. About how authority reveals character. And about how one child, simply being herself, exposed cruelty hiding behind rules. If you ever feel powerless, remember this. Justice doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it sits quietly and waits for the truth to speak first. If you want more powerful HOA justice stories, subscribe, turn on the bell, and never stop standing up for what's right.